Okay, we're on. We're on, I think. Usually I wait for the chat. Hey, Evan. We're here. Oh, you're muted.
Unmute.
There you go. Cool.
All right.
How's it going?
It is great. Thank you for having me.
Good to see you. Yeah, we usually just talk about who are you and what do you do and what have you done?
Wow, man. Ooh, is that where we start? Well, my name is Evan Spiridellis, and I've done a lot of stuff over the past 20-something years. So quick overview is in 1999, my brother and I started a studio called JibJab online years before YouTube.
Yeah.
And we rode that ship for a long time. Along the way, we had kids. So in 2011, 2012, end of 2011, beginning of 2012, we started StoryBots to make stuff for parents that, as opposed to making stuff for kids. And yeah, that's what we've been doing for the past bunch of years, and it's been a great run.
I love how you mentioned you were like watching when you had kids, you would watch preschool shows, and they were kind of just mind-numbing and
Yeah, I think the bar actually over the past few years, the bar has risen really high. There is a lot of great stuff coming out for preschool audiences, but my kids are teenagers now, so flashback 10 plus years, and there was not a lot happening in the preschool space before Netflix, and it was tough. I was not entertained, I'll say that.
And it kind of inspired you to want to make your own something that kids and adults could watch together.
Yeah, I mean for us, the biggest thing we remember, my brother and I would talk about it, like our mom would sit down and watch Sesame Street with us, and she loved it. She would laugh, and it was authentic. Yeah. Or she could get up and go make a phone call or do whatever she had to do, and she felt really good about leaving us in front of Sesame Street.
Yeah.
And we didn't really have that for our kids. Like a lot of the stuff that was being made for preschoolers, like really kind of talked down to little kids, and certainly wasn't made to entertain parents.
Yeah.
So that was our inspiration.
Yeah, I suppose Sesame Street was pretty much the first, and I mean maybe not the first, because there was like Bozo the Clown and like the really little kid shows of the 50s and stuff, but
Kangaroos,
but for something so early, like at least Sesame Street did it right, and to where adults could watch too. And I mean I the best Sesame Street skits, I still love to watch. And
absolutely. I think there's a great book called Street Gang about about the making of Sesame Street, and and then there's the Henson biography, which was great too. But they talked about they were making stuff to make themselves laugh.
Yeah,
and it's so apparent. It totally shows that it wasn't made for a 3-year-old or a 4-year-old. They're made for them, and it was accessible to preschoolers. And I think that's really sort of the that's the secret sauce. That's what makes Sesame Street so great.
Well, so in creating JibJab, what was it? I mean, you had it for a few years, and then because I remember Arland, it was that like the one that kind of took the world by storm.
I could give you the quick overview. So I went to art school, and I studied drawing and painting, and got out of art school in '96. And my wife and I were making shorts together. She's a musician, and she would do sound, and I would make stuff. And we just started doing animation. And then in '97, '98, my brother discovered Flash, and he showed it to us, and was just like, look, I wanted to make a kid show. And he's like, why do you want to make a TV show? Like, look at this thing that's coming. And I'll never forget, he said, do you really want to be banging out horseshoes while the Model T is rolling off the assembly line? And that was like eureka. The internet was you know, the Model T was a long way from like a Ferrari or a Maserati, but it was the beginning.
Yeah.
And so, yeah. And the other thing that was beautiful about, I think, making web content in 99 and 2000 was there really weren't a lot of artists that were doing it, that were excited. It was mostly at the beginning, like a lot of geeks that were fascinated by the technology, but didn't necessarily bring art and animation to it. So it was a little bit easier to stand out.
Yeah.
And then, you know, we started doing that stuff, and just putting it out there. And one of the cool things about the web was, you know, we all take it for granted now, but really it's the first time, it was the first time in the history of mankind that like independent creators in a garage in Brooklyn could reach a worldwide audience without, you know, without having to go to a major media company or
even before you too, because, you know, if you just put it online, and if it stands out, it'll make the rounds, you know.
That's exactly it. We always said, look, if we make something great, people will share it. And if we make duds, like they'll go into the trash bin of internet history. And believe me, we made more than our fair share of duds too. But
you probably made a lot before, you know, JibJab really took off.
Yeah. So we started in 99. We did a political satire in 2000, actually. It was a Bush Gore rap battle.
Okay.
It was called Capitol Ill. And it was actually, for the early web, it was really popular. It got like little bits on CNN and Fox News and Mad TV, if you remember that, licensed it before the election. So, I mean, it was like, here we were a year in business and we were getting this kind of national recognition. So, so we knew that politics worked, and we knew that comedy worked, and we knew that music worked. And that was sort of like a recipe that we were playing around with. And then fast forward to the 2004 election, we did a Bush Kerry, like Woody Guthrie parody called This Land. And, you know, my brother wrote it, my wife did the music, I designed and animated it, and we had one friend do the voices. And it just took off.
I remember everyone and his little brother saw it.
It spread around the world. I mean, we had news crews from like Germany and South Korea coming in. One of the craziest few things, we got emails from troops in Iraq that were saying like the Pentagon actually blocked JibJab from Saddam's old palaces because the troops were flooding the network. It was like 4 megabyte file. And then the best one was NASA. NASA actually called us to get a copy to send to the American astronaut on the International Space Station.
That's so cool.
Because they said he was trapped up there with a Russian, and he didn't speak Russian and the guy didn't speak English. So they were always looking for ways to make them laugh. And it was very cool.
That's great. So from our land, did it really open up a lot of doors? And like, how did JibJab grow as a company from that?
Yeah, so one thing I would say is like we always, when we started JibJab, the goal was to build like a studio, to build a new media studio, independent, that could grow and connect directly with our audience. So the way we stayed in business up until This Land was we would take on corporate work, like a commercial gig, just to make enough money to keep the lights on. So we would take one gig and then start turning down work.
Yeah.
Because more people would call and say, hey, oh, you did this thing, will you do this for us? And we would always say no. Like, we made a point to just make enough money to get by. And then like when we were inches away from bankruptcy yet again, we would take on another corporate gig. And that was how we stayed afloat. But after This Land, we had like a lot of options. It was really interesting. We took on one commercial gig for Budweiser, which was really fun.
Yeah.
We did a thing for Budweiser because that was cool.
Yeah.
We tried to do stuff that we would make on our own anyway. And then we also had a pilot opportunity. We had a feature opportunity. And we basically, and then we also had the opportunity to raise money and build the digital studio.
Okay. Cool. And
Yeah.
JibJab is it like Central Hollywood, or I remember, is it
Um,
near Titmouse?
the JibJab now. So we actually, I'm sure we'll work our way to it. But in 2018, my brother and I sold JibJab so that we could concentrate all of our energies on StoryBots.
Got it.
And the team is amazing. It's still the same team that
Yeah.
that we all work together. They're all still our friends, but they're in downtown LA now.
Okay.
So
Got it.
they're in downtown, and we had always been on the west side.
Okay.
When we left Brooklyn, we made a rule if we went to LA that we wouldn't have commutes and we would be by the beach. Those are our only two rules. So we managed to stay on the west side for the
Cool.
run.
What is it that made you eventually decide to stray more away from JibJab and create StoryBots and want to do a preschool show? Was it?
Well, I think actually for me, a preschool show was something that I had been working on even pre-JibJab. So that was sort of like what I was toying around with. But really, having kids was the thing, I think, for both my brother and myself. In terms of what sort of led us from JibJab, I think we ran the two businesses together and people would kind of flow back and forth. But for the most part, the JibJab team and the StoryBot team were very independent and just kind of in the same building. So there stopped being a lot of overlap. And then the other thing is JibJab became like a really mature business. It was, it's a mature business. There wasn't for us, I think for my brother and myself, we get really excited about the unknown and new challenges. And I think I love the JibJab team and I love the creative and I'm super proud of like this thing that we built, but it became, it felt like StoryBots was the sort of the shiny new toy for us to go chase and play with.
Yeah.
And, that was that.
When did you start, pitching StoryBots or developing it?
Yeah, it's really interesting. So we had a very non-traditional path with StoryBots, and so I was saying how JibJab was a mature business. Like JibJab was a profitable business. We had started making e-cards, sold them directly to our customers, and one of the beautiful things about the scale on the internet when we had the political satires, we had massive audiences, and I remember after we had raised some money, we thought, oh, maybe we'll do some ad work or sponsored content, and we realized quickly that wasn't the way to go. And then my brother, again, like to his credit, came across e-cards. He basically was looking at American Greetings, they're a public company, so whatever their stock paperwork was, and he was like, oh my God, this business makes a lot of money. We could do this. And my initial reaction, going back to, this was 2007, I said, dude, there's no way we're turning JibJab into an e-card company. And he said, and another thing, I love it, he said, don't think about what e-cards are, because at the time they weren't very good. He said, just think about what they could be.
Yeah.
So, all it is, they're shorts, right? If I said to you, Nico, hey, come up with you have to say happy birthday to your buddy. In a blink of an eye, you'll have a dozen ideas that you could make that would be really funny and really cool.
Yeah.
So that was sort of like that could be really cool. So we started doing that, and the beauty was, it's content with utility. So once YouTube came along, no one was going to pay us just to make shorts because they could watch them for free. But if we could help somebody convey a message or a sentiment that they needed to say, happy birthday, happy Mother's Day, happy Valentine's, whatever it is, then they would pay us. And when we had these huge audiences from the political stuff, all it took was a very small percentage of them to give us $18 a year or whatever it was, and we had a business.
Yeah.
So I know it's a roundabout way of getting to your question, but when we started making StoryBots, we completely self-financed the whole endeavor. So
Wow.
JibJab was a profitable business, and I think unlike a lot of people, when they have a profitable business, they'll like go out and buy cars and houses and all those things. And we constantly took all the money and just funneled it back into the next endeavor.
That's great.
And
yeah.
We were really excited. I think when we realized that, when we saw the opportunity and we saw the iPad had just come out, so kids were consuming content differently. Netflix was like there, and they were just beginning to make original content. So we saw sort of the writing on the wall, and it made sense to invest. So we started out just making shorts, ABCs, shapes, letters, numbers, and putting them on YouTube. And because we made shorts, and the response from parents was insane. Like we knew we had something.
Yeah. Wow. So all those YouTube shorts were just financed by you.
Yeah.
And then what happened after that? Did Netflix approach, or did you decide to take it further?
Yeah. So when we started StoryBots, our vision for it was, we want to create global Sesame Street, like a new modern global Sesame Street for kids everywhere. And when to do that, we knew that we would need to develop characters that people could connect with and relate to, and characters that could emote. And that's a hard thing to do in 1-minute music videos. Sure. So I think of like the shorts as like, hey, this is fun. It's a proof of concept. We're building out the world, and parents really like it. So once it was the feedback between YouTube and Twitter that was like, okay, we're on to something. So Netflix actually didn't make it. We self-financed the first season of StoryBots. So we paid out of pocket to make 6 half-hour episodes, and we're talking about a lot of money. Like we put a lot of if you go onto Netflix now and you watch season 1, you'll see all the money on the screen.
Got it.
but we did that knowing that Netflix at the time, when we said, this was 2014 when we said let's do this, they had just had House of Cards, which was their first original series really, and it was a hit. And they were just developing Orange is the New Black.
Okay.
And we saw like, oh, original content's going to be the thing. There was also rumbling that Amazon and Hulu were going to make original content. And again, like looking in the rearview mirror, 6 years, it's like it's all obvious, but at the time it was not obvious. But we believed that we had something good, and we knew that if these over-the-top platforms were going to need to like make original content, that they would need good stuff. So we felt pretty comfortable self-financing. And then we started talking to Netflix, and then midway through production on season 1, they licensed it, and that was sort of the beginning of that.
Okay. So when you were making season 1, was it on YouTube?
No. Season 1, we knew we were holding back to license to, whether it was Netflix or Amazon or, Hulu or Disney, Nickelodeon, whatever. Sure. We just knew that we had something from the shorts, from the feedback, we knew we had something worthwhile. So we felt comfortable putting all of our money into it.
Cool. And then you said halfway through season 1, Netflix kind of approached?
Well, we approached them. So we started talking to everybody.
Cool.
We had, the one thing is we had credibility from the years of doing JibJab. So, and we had relationships built over, 15 years. So when we started doing this, and we had the success on YouTube, so we could point to these things. We could point to articles in Variety and Hollywood Reporter. And it was like, hey, look,
we're somebody.
We're somebody. This thing is going to go. Yeah. And I think there's also really when you don't need somebody's money, you've got a lot of leverage. right?
Yeah.
So like we were making this thing whether they wanted it in or not, and you know, you could see when we were in production that it was good. Like, and that's not ego. I mean, at the time, again, rewind, there wasn't a lot of high quality cinematic preschool content. So
Yeah.
even if our show was just okay, it was still like riding higher than
Yeah.
the standard bar.
Yeah. Yeah.
So they were really excited, and the team there was great, is great, and it was the start of a beautiful friendship, you know.
Great.
Yeah.
So how much if how much StoryBots have you done, and if you can talk about it, the continuation of it, and what's coming up next?
Yeah. So over the years, let's see, we've made over 150 shorts that are on YouTube. You know, I mean, hundreds and hundreds of millions of views all in, like probably into billions. I honestly don't know.
Yeah.
We made 3 seasons of Ask the Storybots, so that was 24 episodes. A Christmas special. We did a show called StoryBots Super Songs. That was a lot of fun. And then books. We did a deal with Random House, and have a book line, some board books, some learn to read books, and now we're in the next
Yeah.
you know, steps. And I think one of the things that we're really excited about. So I should back up and say, last year Netflix actually purchased StoryBots from us. So we're no longer an independent studio. We're at Netflix full time and loving it. And I think one of the reasons we did that was, well, there's a few reasons we did it, but one of the big ones was, you know, our initial vision of like, hey, we want to be global Sesame Street. One, we felt like we took the brand as far as like an independent studio could take it. So yes, Netflix put us in 190 countries and 30 something languages, and we had a book deal here, and we were in Target with, so great stuff. But to get to that Sesame Street, Mickey Mouse, Toy Story scale that we all dream of, you want like a huge global partner behind you. And the Netflix team was just amazing. Like we had 6 years of working with them. Everything about the place is amazing. And so they felt like the right partner. And then 2, their vision for it was very much in line with our vision for it. So I'm not sure how much I could say about what we're doing now, but we spent a year sort of deep diving on the StoryBots universe, and I'll say that there will be a lot of StoryBots content to come.
Okay, great.
You know, and I think the plan is for years to come. So we're really excited. And there, you know, once we joined with Netflix, we did a deal with Fisher Price. So the StoryBots are now like, you know, it's Fisher Price's characters for their new toy lines. That you can find stuff in Target and Walmart and Barnes and Noble. A friend of mine texted me a photo. She was at Barnes and Noble's at the Grove in LA. And like there was our toy on the shelf next to Blue's.
That's so cool.
Clues.
Yeah.
It's very cool. You know? Very cool.
What's it been like seeing globally, you know, the response to StoryBots from families and kids and adults alike?
Honestly, I think seeing directly when you go on Twitter and look at StoryBots, that's where like those little personal stories are where you go like, oh my God, we collectively made something like impactful.
Yeah.
I mean, as an artist or a creative person, you kind of can't ask for more than that, right?
Yeah.
Like, and truthfully, it's not me and Greg, my brother. It's like we pulled together this amazing group of people and made something that has impacted people, like, and grown-ups and little kids. And it's that part of it is pretty far out. It's really rewarding, and you don't think about it day to day because you're too busy making stuff or trying to make stuff. But you know, we get messages sometimes, and it's really yeah, some of the stories are pretty touching.
That's great.
Yeah.
How many, it must be in, playing tons of countries and tons of different languages. Do you know how many exactly, or?
Yeah, so it's 190 countries.
Wow.
Um, it is 30 something languages, and it's which is just insane
Yeah.
actually. It is that piece of it is like a fulfillment of the original vision. So one thing I should say, and you and I have talked about this, I think, is that when we initially designed the characters, the reason they have those sort of like floppy heads is
Hmm.
because we knew we wanted to be able to dub it in however many languages, and we didn't
Gotcha.
want to have to worry about lip sync and oohs and
Yeah.
e's, and by just having that floppy head. If you go on Netflix, everybody in their account has 6 default languages, and you can go in and change and select of the 30 something. We've watched StoryBots in every language, and the the dubbing job that Netflix did is bonkers. It's really amazing. And then 2, the lip sync actually works. Like
Yeah.
if if there's a kid in Korea or Iran or Germany, it feels authentic to them. Like that was our
Wow.
mission, is we want this show not to feel like an American export. Like, oh,
Mhm.
there's this great thing that was made over there that, now is like turned into something for me. Like we want every kid watching this to feel like these characters are their characters. And
That's so great.
it's pretty cool. Yeah, it's been fun.
Who designed the characters? You and your brother, or?
We so at the very beginning, I reached out to a bunch of friends. Like we all were kind of chipping away at it, and I just kept stripping it back and back and back.
Okay.
Um, Romney Caswell, who's now our art director, did the original designs of Team 341B, and he is just a mega talent. He doesn't put a lot of stuff online. He's hard to track down, but we've worked together for 10 plus years, and he's brilliant, like just genius. And one of the things that we wanted to do with the original characters was strip them back to the simplest form.
Mhm.
So
Did,
that
did they start off really kind of more uh, complicated, or?
No, I think some of the like I must have had a dozen friends that I was like, hey, can you take a crack at this? And
Yeah.
all the art was amazing, but really, like from the beginning, the vision was they're a rectangle and a semicircle, and
Yeah.
that's it. They're all 3 colors, and their only unifying factor is that they all have the same exact hands.
Yeah.
So shapes are different, but the idea was one, because they're so simple, any artist anywhere in the world could design and animate them in their own style, and
Mm.
all of these sort of separate pieces would snap together and feel like a unified vision. So that was why they're so simple, and that thankfully that worked. The other thing about the simple shapes is we wanted to make sure animators could do what they love doing. So the more stuff you put on a character, it's great, and designers love it, but the harder it is to animate. So we
Sure.
thought
Sure.
if we could keep these super simple, then we'd have more leeway with animation to let them emote and
Mm.
act and do all those things.
They always say the best characters are when you silhouette them and you can still tell who they are. So
Yeah,
it's like, the simpler, Mickey, Bart Simpson, you can tell who it is.
absolutely.
Yeah, yeah. Same with the Storybots.
Yeah, and ours are even almost simpler. They're just
Yeah.
because they're all basically the same shape. It's about size and scale,
Did
proportion.
you always have the main 5, their personalities kind of figured out, or?
No. So one of the things, again, that we approached before we made, I should say, before we made season 1 of Ask the Storybots, we had never made anything longer than 2 minutes ever.
Mhm.
Like 2 minutes was like an eternity for us. So we were going to like up to 22 minutes. It was a run. We did not have, when we started making Storybots, we didn't want to write a traditional Bible and say, oh, this is the smart one and this is the that one.
Gotcha. Yeah.
We kind of wanted them to emerge out of us making stuff. I will say once we got to Showtime and it was like, okay, we're going to make this show. We'd been making StoryBots content for 2 or 3 years. And it was like, then Greg went off and wrote and it was like, okay, Beep is the leader and this is the, you know, Bo has emotions and like that. So
yeah. Not necessarily that JibJab was like adult content, but what was it like moving from, you know, general audience stuff to preschool stuff? Was it, I mean, because like you said,
yeah,
you've been wanting to make preschool stuff forever, so it doesn't seem like it was that hard of a jump.
it was like a dream come true, man.
Yeah.
It was, and honestly, it was a dream come true because I have 2 very little kids at home. Like I was making, you know, I always say, oh, I'm making stuff for myself. I was making stuff for myself and my boys. It was like, you know, dude, that was like, and that was my job to make my kids laugh. I mean, you don't get any better than that. So.
Well, a couple guests ago, I had Craig McCracken, and he said that he's always really been into content that kids can enjoy, and he's never really been interested in, you know, making stuff for adults, Adult Swim or whatever. Is that do you feel the same?
Yeah, I think you know, you have different times in your life where you're into different things. You know, when I was pre-kids and we were just making whatever we wanted, you know, we definitely had more of an edge. I think we were always, you know, we were never past the PG-13 rating, I would say, a self-imposed PG-13 rating. One, because that's just not really my personal sensibility. And then 2, as an independent studio, we needed as wide an audience as possible. So like, why, you know, we never wanted to turn anybody, you know, you want to keep as big an audience possible.
Yeah, that's a good way of looking at it. I always feel like we're cut from the same cloth because I produce Ollie and Scoops all by myself, and it's like, you know, I have the freedom to make it an adult show if I want, but I don't.
Yeah,
I just it's kind of, it feels like it almost feels like it's not to downplay adult shows, but it feels like it's too easy to, you know, say F this, F that, farts, and just have it kind of, it sounds like it kind of takes more thinking to make something accessible for everybody.
It's like, you know, like Billy Wilder movies. Like they couldn't say that stuff, but man, he got good at like, you know, at like sliding those jokes in there. Like,
totally.
So yes, it definitely is more of a challenge, but really rewarding. You know, when you can like tell a story that's working on a few levels and not to be like, you know, yeah.
We have some questions. I'm getting them texted to me. Hang on.
Cool.
So, okay, cool. All right. Sage H, hopefully I'm saying that right, asks, which art school did you go to, and can you recommend going to art school to get a career?
Those are great questions. So the college I went to was Parsons School of Design in New York. It was, going to school in Manhattan was amazing. I grew up in New Jersey and always wanted to be in the city. The best thing that happened at Parsons, and I think the best thing that happens at any school, is I met my teacher. So there was a teacher there, Dave Pasalakla, who was just brilliant. Just opened my eyes to the entire world. And that made the entire, like meeting him made the entire education worthwhile. And also meeting your friends. I think that's the network of people that you meet at school.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Is huge. Like that's almost more valuable than the stuff you'll learn. On the flip side, I think it's a little different now because this was also pre-internet. So one, I did not go to school for animation, which is slightly different. I studied drawing and painting, like the old school way, pre-computers. And I think it was super valuable to me. I think if you want to get into animation, there's a handful of schools that are amazing. The cost is a real struggle. I mean, I don't know to be totally honest, I don't know what I would do now. you have access to information that with the internet through social media that was never available before. My teacher used to tell me, you know, you're going to spend, at the time, I think it was like, you know, $20,000 a year.
Oh yeah.
Now like 50, 60, whatever. You're going to spend $20,000 a year, and you're not going to go buy a $20 book about a master, you know, Paul Klee, Picasso, Matisse. Like, you're out of your mind. So I think, like, for me, that was like, oh, that information is out there. It's in books. You can get it on your own. School creates an environment where it's more accessible. It's easier not to slack off. Like, you've got to be really motivated to do it without school, I think. But maybe go, I don't know. It's a hard decision. If you can afford it, yeah, why not? Go, like, meet a network, learn a bunch of stuff, but really it comes down to, how much do you want it? Because a lot of people pay to go to school and they just don't want it bad enough. And that piece of paper and that $100,000+ education isn't worth a hill of beans. But if you want it and you work your ass off, like, you'll get it, and you could do that with or without school.
Yeah. And again, I didn't go to school for animation. I went to school for film, but you know, we just happened to land in animation. Sometimes it just works out that way.
Yeah. You follow the stuff you love, and you'll get there. You know?
Yeah. I'm sorry, Didi Soul. What was the biggest inspiration for StoryBots?
Wow. Biggest inspiration. Well, you know, we grew up on Henson, like, obviously, like, those, and
it
Frank
feels like a
Dave
Jim Henson
Gold,
show.
That whole crew of people were just, you could feel, even as a kid watching that stuff, you could feel how much fun they were having. Like, that was not, and it wasn't just because they wrote funny sketches. Like, you could feel that this was a group of people that loved being around each other, that were laughing. Like, that camera stopped rolling, and I'm sure they were cackling, you know? So that was a big inspiration. You know, and then you could look at Chuck Jones stuff, huge, like, just I'll say that. I'll stop
Those
there.
are both,
I mean, the inspirations are honestly everywhere, but
those are two great ones.
I'll stop there.
I'm sorry, everyone's names. Terme, I'm sorry. How did you know it was time to raise money? How did you find the best VC partner?
Oh, great question.
Yeah.
So this is going back to 2006. So we had our big success in 2004. We were independent. We had everybody wanted us. We did some licensing deals at the time. We did a licensing deal with Yahoo, where they were paying for the rights, the exclusive rights to premiere our next shorts. So we had, like, we could put them on our site, and then just Yahoo owned them. Then we also did a deal with MSN online, where they licensed our shorts. So we were generating money. And then in 2006, YouTube came around, or 2005. And we realized, wow, no one is going to pay us anymore for the rights to make stuff. So we had we were basically at a crossroad. We had the opportunity to go make a feature film. We had done a deal where we had made a pitch and a Bible and like a $10 million budget and a treatment. And so we could have went and made a film, or we had an investor approach us. And for us, we were kind of at a crossroads. We said, look, the world has changed now that YouTube is here. If we want to be like Matt and Trey, right, two creators, we can go make a feature film and, like, forget the studio, forget growing a brand. That was a path. Or we could, like, try and double down and build online. So the reason we took money after 7 years in business, 8 years in business, is because the landscape had changed, and we knew we had a business. My brother, he's more the business guy. You should definitely listen to any interviews with him about the VCs and raising money, but he does not recommend taking money early. Build your own business. Make sure you don't need somebody's money and that you have a business before you take somebody's money. It seems pretty simple, but if you take their money when you need it and you don't have a secure business, you will lose your ability to operate independently. And then, you might as well go get a job somewhere.
Great. That's fantastic advice. We have Sage H also asks, what were some of the most challenging things in your career?
Whoa. The most challenging thing at the beginning was, before we had success and when our success started, was honestly building a team. Everything you do, whether you're independent or whether you start your own studio or whether you work at a studio on a show, everything comes down to the people that you work with, like just without a doubt. And it's not just talent, because there is a lot of talent out there. You want to make sure that you're surrounded by people that you enjoy being around.
Sure.
Yeah, and it seems pretty logical. But it's building that crew and that team at the beginning before we had any success and we were just pitching a vision was hard. But little by little over the years, we you meet people, you do stuff together, you hit it off. And it's almost like, like the snowball going down the hill into the avalanche.
It becomes something bigger.
Yeah, and it's all the people that we worked with that made this thing really what it is. What else was challenging? I mean, we've had tons of challenges. I'd say that's the biggest one. And also, in addition to being the biggest challenge, has also been the most rewarding. Like the flip side of that is the payoff is huge. When you find a group of people that you want to be around, that make you laugh, that you enjoy being with, like you get the best stuff that way.
What are some of the biggest recruiting and or fundraising lessons learned over the years?
We haven't done any fundraising, other than raising money. When we did raise money, my brother's background pre-JibJab, like he was in investment banking. So I went to art school, he went to the business school. And then when he did his master's degree, he got his MBA and was like, I'm done. I don't want to go back to that world. And that's when we started JibJab.
Okay.
So he's taking care of the financial side of things. We found a great partner, and I gotta it won't mean a lot to the animation community, but John Flint at Polaris Venture Capital was a godsend. He was basically like a second father. He was supportive, believed in us, helped us along, never imposed his own will, was amazing. So if you do take somebody's money, make sure you've got a relationship with them and it's somebody you trust that believes in your vision, that isn't just trying to make a quick, flip it and make a quick buck. He had a long-term belief in us and supported us along the way. That was huge. What was the first part of the question? That was raising funds or recruiting?
Recruiting. I guess like you mentioned, your crew.
Yeah. So for while we were still doing JibJab and StoryBots independently, every year Jeff Gill, our creative director, and we would fly around the country and visit art schools every spring, just because you can look at stuff online, but I think meeting people face to face, in person, sitting down together, you just get a sense. Sometimes, that amazing portfolio, you meet somebody and you go, well, I don't know if we would jive. I don't know if they would like our, not everybody's gonna like our vibe. And it's not that we're bad people. It's just look, we roll, we're a little chaotic, things are not on the rails at all times. So if somebody wants this is what you do, you punch the clock, this is what you do, that's not the place we were. so meeting people, and then also just look the internet. Like before, at first it was Blogspot, Blogger.
Yeah.
You know, I would just cruise the blogs and I'd find people I like and I would email them.
Cool.
Hey, how you doing?
Yeah.
Twitter, Instagram. I mean, it's just everywhere. The world has shrunk to like, you know, you could put it in your hand.
Yeah.
So I think just looking around, talking to people, and the more people you talk to, the more people you meet. So
I always say Twitter is like the best place just to go and find artists that are, you know, really good. And then I reach out to them when I need, you know, whatever, or
totally.
yeah.
The other thing that I think about recruiting in general is just be, and same thing with raising money, like whatever you're doing, just be honest with people.
Yeah.
Like don't sell a bill of goods. Like, you know, if it's a vision, say this is my vision. Don't be dishonest. It's really not that critical, or not that difficult to say. Tell people what you're thinking. Tell them what you're doing. Like sometimes I'll meet people and I'll say, "Oh, I'm in love with your stuff. I don't know. I don't have a project right now that's a natural fit, but like I just wanted to meet you because I'm a fan." And then, you know, you stick them in the memory bank, and a year later or 5 years later, something pops up, and you go, "Oh wow, remember her or him?" Like, and that's been the way I recruited.
Yeah.
I guess.
Yeah. Same here. Same here. So similar. Hang on. What? Six. Why did you decide on 6 30-minute episodes when you were self-financing season 1?
Part of it was that was just that's what traditional TV was, like 20, 22 minutes. And our thought was we didn't know if we would license it to Netflix, and we didn't know if there were open time slots. It was really like, if this is what a TV show is, this is what we should make, because maybe it would sell to PBS or Disney or whatever. And the number 6 was, it was a big enough proof of concept. So
cats on the keyboard.
Hey, kitty. For us, 6 episodes felt like, look, if somebody sees these 6, they'll know what we're doing. And because we were spending our own money, we didn't really feel the need to make 8 if somebody could get it at 6. Yeah. And quite honestly, I don't know if we could have afforded to make 8. So it was a lot of money.
6 is just what worked.
Yeah.
Cool. Steven asks, pre-internet, great cartoon characters could develop over time, Looney Tunes characters, etc. Now the whole show needs to be fully fledged out from the get-go, it seems. How do you do that?
Steven, that is it's a really great question. It's a super smart question. I think there's still opportunities to let characters marinate and emerge from the sort of creative primordial ooze. For us, you know, we did write 6 episodes. We did write 6 characters, but we're and I can only speak to what we do because that's all I know. We're creating a world where we are going to start introducing lots of new characters. And we talk about Bugs Bunny and Daffy Duck all the time. We also talk about Kermit the Frog was not a frog, and he wasn't even the lead. He was just a secondary monster on Sam and Friends, which was after the news program, local in Washington, D.C. So I think like just the ability to make stuff. Don't overthink it. Like, yes, have a grand vision, but start making stuff. You'll figure out what works, what doesn't, what characters deserve a little more screen time or a little more development. And again, that's only what we're doing. I'm sure there are a lot of rules and a lot of reasons that might not work on other shows, but for us, we're sort of thinking about it like a world. And yes, we have our staple. We have our main 5 or 7 or 10 characters, but yeah, the Bugs model is absolutely it. Let's just start making stuff, trying new things, and we'll see. Hopefully we get a Bugs out of it, you know?
Yeah. Well, I'm excited for all the new characters coming out too, in addition to the main. I can't. Jordan asks, how are you able to operate during COVID?
It's a great question. It's a really great question, and I would say out of all the productions I know, we've had the easiest transition.
Mm-hmm.
So because we were an independent studio for so long, we have a network of talent around the globe that we work with. Again, going back to recruiting, you see somebody and you like their stuff and you email them. And we've worked with people all around the globe. So we were accustomed to that email, FTP, notes.
Yeah.
Even as we joined Netflix, we were remote. So I truly believe talent is everywhere, and the internet enables us to work with talent everywhere. So most of our team was already doing some remote time pre-COVID. I was working remotely 1 day a week. My brother was working remotely. And originally my goal was to get to 3 days a week remote, 2 days in-house. Now I realize I'm never going back to a studio. I mean, I'll go back because I love my friends and I want to hang out with them.
Yeah.
But I'm so much more productive in a bubble.
Yeah.
It's amazing. And I think for our team, somebody asked earlier about the biggest challenges in running a studio. Getting everybody to run at the same schedule was always a challenge.
Yeah.
Some people wake up at 4 in the morning. Some people go to bed at 4 in the morning.
Yeah.
And I think what COVID's proved is it doesn't matter. If you're more productive from 8 p.m. to 4 in the morning, great. I don't care. Like, we set goals. Hey, what can you get done this week? We all agree to them. And then people do their thing. It's sad. I miss not seeing my friends and the people I work with. And you definitely miss some of the magic of just bumping into each other and like looking at somebody's walking by and seeing something on somebody's monitor. Like, that is really hard. I miss that.
Yeah.
But I do think the team is amazing, and everyone knows what they have to do, and they do their thing, which is great.
Yeah. We found it the exact same way. I mean, even before COVID, Kid Cosmic, half the crew is in Canada, or and a lot of them aren't even in Canada or LA. They're just somewhere and they're just working from home. So it's kind of like, I don't know, in terms of Netflix, it felt like everybody was sort of already ready for something like this to happen.
It's a new world. Even again, pre-pandemic, the tools and technology have enabled this to happen in a really successful way. So I think COVID definitely poured some gas on the fire, but this was inevitable. I think people like being able to be, however people are more productive, that's what they should do. And I do think when this all winds down eventually, I'm very ready for it. I think like we'll probably be a mix. We'll have the studio for people that want to get together and work and like go in, arrive, take a lunch break, check out. If that's what's better, great. I just love that we don't have to dictate it. That was what I hated being independent. It's like, just be here by 10 a.m.
Yeah.
10:05 again. Like, like my kids managed to get to school by 8 a.m. Like, 10 o'clock. Is that too much?
I can't believe how fast everything went by. Unless anyone has any more questions, this has been so cool. Thank you, Evan.
Nico, thank you for inviting me. I could talk about this stuff all day long, but I appreciate, just being asked to the show.
Yeah. Do you have any, you can either type in the chat or just say, do you have anything you want to plug? Anything you want to, like any, I don't know, social media, or obviously, people should watch your show.
Watch the show. I'm not big on, I'm like a social media voyeur. I don't like post a lot of stuff. I look for talent there.
Yeah.
I would say if you know any 2, 3, or 4 or 5-year-olds, buy them a StoryBot gift for Christmas.
Yeah.
That's my plug, you know?
There you go. Great.
And I will say this, the toys are crazy. Like, I wish I had one in front of me. The toys are really cool. I'm very involved with the toys.
What's that behind you? It looks like,
oh,
is that one of them, or?
You want to see this thing?
Sure.
Really cool. So there's a few things. These are some of the plush, and you squeeze them and they talk, and this is like this great thing. But wait, I want to show you what it's sitting on. This is pretty. Oh, so Fisher Price sent me this.
Wow.
Wait for this. This is like pretty bonkers. Okay.
It's like the box set for the whole show.
It kind of is, actually. So open here. So this was like the gift, but this is there's a lot of toys.
Wow.
And wait, they lift out. So this is like a slide writer for little kids. They can spell their name and then practice writing. But look at this. Like, this is that. And there's this guitar that's awesome.
Yes.
We got Parry Grip to write all these little songs in there. And then this is the figures, and there's more to come with these. So yeah, it's if you know a little kid, buy him a StoryBot toy. There's my big plug.
Terma, the what's next at Netflix is more StoryBots.
Yes. We are 100% in the StoryBots camp, and we have, like I said earlier, let me get this out of the way. Like I said earlier, we have very big visions for where we can go with this, and Netflix is they're just so supportive. It's an amazing place to be, and an amazing time to be there.
Yeah.
There are so many amazingly talented creative people there, like pursuing their vision, and I feel really grateful, really thankful to be in that camp.
I do too. Me too. And then sorry, DD Soul or DD Soul. Next crash courses with Erica Tuesday and Mike Ruaco. We'll be talking about storyboarding, animation, and character design, because that's what they all do. But Evan, thank you so much.
Thank you, Nico.
Thanks for taking the time
it.
out of the day, out of your busy schedule.
Oh no, I love it, and thank you to anybody that watched or had questions.
Yeah. Oh yeah. And this is also recorded, so everybody can, watch in the future too. This is you provided invaluable information, I feel. So even artistic and business wise, I think. So
cool.
Thank you so much. And have a great Thanksgiving.
You too. Happy Thanksgiving.
Yeah, and everybody in the chat also, thank you, and happy Thanksgiving. And we'll see you in 2 weeks from today, I guess. Yeah. December 3rd, I think. I could be wrong. Sorry. December, whatever's 2 weeks from today. All right. Thank you so much again, Evan. See you guys all later.
Bye, guys.